let me inside. I miss my baby.
There are new questions about the police investigation into the dating app death of a young woman, Lauren Smith Fields, in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
On December 12, 2021, Chantal Fields found herself in a state of worry as she couldn't reach her daughter, Lauren Smith Fields, throughout the day. Despite sending numerous texts and making multiple calls, all she received was silent. Determined to find out what was going on, Chantal and her son decided to pay a visit to Lauren's apartment the next day. To their surprise, a note on the door instructed them to call a specific number if they were looking for Lauren. Without wasting a moment, Mrs. Fields dialed the number, and soon enough, the landlord appeared before her. In a heart-wrenching moment, the landlord delivered the devastating news that Laurent, Chantal's beloved daughter, had tragically passed away the day before. Shocked and grief-stricken, Chantal couldn't understand why the Bridgeport Police Department hadn't informed her about this terrible loss. The landlord sympathetically provided Chantal's son with the contact information of a detective who could shed some light on the situation. When Chantal's son reached out to the detective, he was met with an unhelpful and abrupt conversation. The detective revealed that Lauren had met someone on a dating app and had spent her last evening with him before her untimely demise. However, the detective failed to provide any further details and abruptly ended the call, leaving the family in a state of confusion and frustration. Days turned into a relentless battle for answers as Lauren's family had to plead with the detectives to take action and gather evidence from the crime scene. Shockingly, it seemed as though the investigators showed little interest in pursuing the case. They neglected to follow up on potential leads and let the man go who was with Laurent when she died because he seemed a nice guy. To make matters worse, the police labeled Laurent's case as no need for investigation. The question lingered. Why were the Bridgeport police so apathetic, cold, and indifferent? Brace yourself, because the answer to this question is truly disturbing. Lauren Smith Fields, a 23-year-old resident of Bridgeport, Connecticut, was a student at Norwalk Community College with aspirations of becoming a physical therapist. On December 11, 2021, she had invited Matthew LaFountain, a man she had recently met on the dating app Bumble, over to her apartment. According to Matthew, the pair spent most of the night sipping tequila, enjoying movies, and letting the night unfold. As time passed, Lauren stepped out to hand her brother a basket of his forgotten clothes. After a quick bathroom break, she returned to the living room where she and Matthew were watching a film. Eventually, she dozed off on the couch. Matthew stayed awake to finish the movie, then gently carried Lauren to bed once the credits rolled and later fell asleep beside her. At 6:30 a.m., Matthew's eyes fluttered open, expecting to see Lauren's radiant smile greeting him. However, his heart sank as he turned to face her, only to find her motionless. Panic surged through his veins as he noticed a trickle of red liquid coming out of her nostril. Without wasting a second, he dialed the emergency hotline, desperately seeking help. The operator guided him through the steps of Kipar, but despite his valiant efforts, it was too late. When the first responders reached the scene, Lauren had already passed away. The officers arrived shortly after and briefly questioned Matthew. He recounted the events leading up to the tragic discovery of Lauren's lifeless body, and the conversation ended there. The police swiftly gathered Lauren's belongings, that includes $1,000 cash as well, and just like that, the story ended abruptly. Surprisingly, they didn't bother collecting any evidence or seeking additional witness statements from her neighbors. What's even more disheartening is that they didn't make any effort to contact Lauren's family. It took over 24 agonizing hours for her mother to discover the devastating truth about her daughter's demise, and it wasn't even the police who informed her. Now, let me paint a clearer picture of how things usually unfold in such situations. Typically, the police don't immediately reach out to the family. It's not uncommon for them to spend a few hours gathering information before breaking the news to loved ones. But in this case, it seems like the police had no intention of informing Lauren's family anytime soon. They simply took her body, placed it in the morgue, and moved on to other investigations. The following day, when Lauren's family went to her apartment to check on her, they found a note on her door redirecting them to the landlord. Shockingly, it was the landlord who had to deliver the heartbreaking news of Lauren's untimely passing. Immediately, Laurent's family contacted the Bridgeport Police Department, who directed them to Detective Kevin Cronin. the very detective who had been at Lauren's apartment on that fateful morning. Detective Cronin had a phone conversation with Laurent's family, where he detailed the events leading up to her tragic demise. Understandably, Laurent's family had numerous questions, prompting Detective Cronin to assure them that he would personally visit Lauren's apartment to address their concerns within 30 minutes. But when the detective didn't come even after 45 minutes, Lauren's family reached out to him. Shockingly, the officer dismissed any further investigation, describing the man Lauren had been seeing as a nice guy. Let's take a moment to reflect on the absurdity of this situation. At this point, the detectives had no concrete knowledge of how Lauren had lost her life. Their assumptions of it being an accident or an overdose were baseless, as they had not gathered any evidence to support such claim. The only statement they had obtained was from a man who could very well be the killer. Now, let me be clear, the police stated that they had no reason to suspect Matthew of lying or being involved in Lauren's death. I am not implying that Matthew was responsible. However, without obtaining a second statement or conducting a thorough investigation, how can we be certain of his innocence? The police's assertion that Matthew was a really nice guy and did not appear to be a criminal holds no weight. Chantal Fields, Lauren's mother, took matters into her own hands when she realized that the police were not taking her daughter's case seriously. Determined to find answers, she returned to Lauren's apartment and stumbled upon some intriguing evidence. It appeared that Lauren and Matthew had been involved intimately on the night of her tragic demise. This puzzled Chantal because earlier that afternoon, Laurent's family claimed she was feeling unwell. So why would she engage in drinking, partying, and becoming intimate with Matthew? It simply didn't add up. If she was truly sick, such behavior would have been out of the question. However, things took a stranger turn when Chantal discovered bloodstains on Lauren's sheets. The source of the blood remained unknown, but it was enough to deeply concern Lauren's mother, especially since the police had neglected to collect the sheets as evidence. As if that wasn't perplexing enough, Chantal stumbled upon a mysterious pill nearby. This discovery made her realize that there was more to this story than meets the eye. Chantal promptly contacted the police again, informing them about the evidence she had found. Unfortunately, the investigators remained indifferent. It took them over a month to finally collect the items from Laurent's apartment and submit them for forensic testing. To be clear, it wasn't the testing that took that long, but rather the police's lack of urgency in filing the necessary paperwork. After 6 weeks of Lauren's death, the results of her toxicology test finally arrived. The findings revealed that Lauren had succumbed to an overdose of antihistamines, alcohol, and fentanyl. Investigators also discovered traces of promethazine, hydroxyzine, alcohol, and fentanyl in Lauren's system. Well, this toxicology report seems quite intriguing to me. Promethazine is often found in prescription cough syrup. Until around 2017, this product was available over the counter, usually combined with codeine. However, the over-the-counter sale of codeine was restricted in the US a few years ago, leading to the disappearance of promethazine. What's fascinating is that cough syrup containing codeine and promethazine is frequently used as a recreational drug called purple drink. In the report, there wasn't a single trace of codeine. That means in its absence, promethazine simply induced sleep. It's a question that lingers in the air. Why would Laurent, who had plans to stay up all night and enjoy a night of partying with her new boyfriend, take so many sleeping pills? It doesn't quite add up, does it? One can't help but wonder where she got all those pills from and why she felt the need to take them in the first place. And let's not forget about the mysterious unidentified pill that Chantal stumbled upon. It's all quite puzzling. None of the substances found in Laurent's system would have contributed to a night of partying, except for the alcohol, of course. Without the codeine, it seems that her evening would have been nothing more than a slumber. Personally, it seems to me that this toxicology report hints at the possibility of Lauren being drugged. It's almost as if someone wanted to render her unconscious and fast. After enduring blatant disrespect from the Bridgeport Police Department, the Laurens family decided to seek justice by hiring attorney Darnell Crossland. He wasted no time in taking their case to the media. Crossland made it clear that he had never come across a medical examiner who would conclude that someone died accidentally from drugs without bothering to investigate the source or method of ingestion, especially when the deceased had no history of drug use. The family stood firmly behind these statements, emphasizing that Lauren would never have taken anything that wasn't prescribed. She was a regular at the gym, always striving to maintain her well-being. It's disheartening to see the lack of care and respect shown in this case. Despite the efforts of Lauren's family and friends, the detective involved faced minimal consequences and the case remains unsolved. It's frustrating that no updates have been made since 2022, even after the case was reassigned to a different group of investigators. We are left with so many unanswered questions about how a seemingly put-together woman could have fallen victim to a drug overdose. While we can't place blame without evidence, it's only fair that the man she met on Bumble be thoroughly investigated. The circumstances surrounding her ingestion of the drugs are also unknown. It's disheartening to see another murder mystery that the police seem reluctant to solve. We can only hope for justice in this case.